Awesome, yeah. Great to see everyone here. Thanks for coming. This is the first ACE event of Thames Valley this year. It's also my first in-person event that I'm hosting, so I'm expecting there to be some hiccups, but it will be good, I think. So yeah, exciting. So we're Thames Valley ACE. We currently are doing most things in Reading, but the plan is to kind of do things across the Thames Valley in the future. So that could be sort of Newbury, Maidenhead, Oxford, Slough. And yeah, we've got a brief intro. If you saw the last ACE Thames Valley, you've probably seen this before, but I couldn't avoid a chance to use the speakers here. So So yeah, that was thanks to James, that little clip. So nice job, James. Yeah, so this is a very special event. We found this venue. I think it's a pretty unique venue. So yeah, the theme is going to be kind of cinema. I have popcorn in my bag. If you want some popcorn, I need to go get it out. We've got food arriving at 7:30, so there'll be catering here. So there'll be things like sandwiches. I couldn't get pizza, unfortunately. I know pizza's usually like the de facto Atlassian food, but they don't allow outside catering, so they've got to get some money somehow, I think. So yeah, in keeping with this theme, we've also got a little clip here as well. I remember that from when I was a kid, that advert at the beginning. So yeah, first of all, I want to say if this is your first Atlassian community event, I'd encourage you to get involved more and go to various events wherever you are. You're going to meet a great bunch of people from all sides of the world. Here's just a few clips of me and with various people you might recognize. So yeah, it's brilliant. For example, the London ACE is another event that I'd encourage you to attend as well. And funnily enough, that brings me on to the next slide. So the community leaders of Reading or Thames Valley is Bruce Cullen, who's also the leader of London ACE, and myself. And unfortunately, Bruce couldn't be here tonight, but he hopes to be at the next event that we run. So yeah, if you have any questions around getting involved in the community, come and talk to me. I'm happy to help and give you the connections or the advice that you want. And yeah, the next point is we've got two sponsors for tonight. We've got Haiku, who are a SaaS data protection platform who deal with resiliency. So if you're frustrated with Jira and Confluence's backup system, which can only back up once every 48 hours, I think, have a look at Haiku. They've got offerings that can help there. And Capable, which is my company, which we have a Confluence app, which is an all-in-one app, which solves many of the problems that people face in Confluence. And we also won Codegeist 2024 last year. So yeah, I encourage you to check them out. And we've got two great speakers tonight. We've got Ram from Haiku, and we've got Nigel from Efficode. So they're both in the front row here. I think you've already met them. And yeah, we've got quite a jam-packed agenda. So we started about 20 minutes late, but we're currently in the intro. Then I'm going to do sort of a very brief news section to kind of catch you up with, since the last Thames Valley ACE that we did, what's happened in the Atlassian ecosystem. And then we'll have the great talk from the two speakers here, and that will bring us to the networking, which is when the food will be brought out. So if the food might come in halfway through the talks. That might be one issue we have. And then afterwards, it's going to be networking. And we also have the screen, as I said, until 11. I'm not expecting anyone to be here till that late, but I have brought my Switch and I've brought 4 controllers. So I thought we could have sort of a Mario Kart tournament. And then maybe next time we can have a winner stays on, which will be brilliant. So yeah, we've got a great agenda. I hope everyone enjoys the event. So yeah, that's the introduction. I'm going to move on to the news. So I've got kind of 6 short stories basically to tell you that's what's happened in the last 3 months. You probably guess what some of these are going to be. So the first one, Atlassian has become the title sponsor of Williams Racing. They've rebranded the car. It looks really cool. And I've got a short video for this as well.
We're gonna take on the world.
So we're pretty excited about this sponsorship. It's going to be really cool to see Atlassian's logo on all of the race cars. I can't wait for Monday.com to buy one of the other teams. So yeah, look out for Williams Racing in the next Formula One. And you'll see Atlassian. The next one is Trello has unveiled a new inbox, a planner and AI capabilities. I bet you didn't see the AI coming, but I keep asking them when this is actually going to launch, because like we keep seeing all these sneak peeks about this feature, but we still haven't seen it. So it's supposed to be April this year. So next month you should see all these new features that I'm going to show you. I personally really like Trello. So they're releasing this inbox feature where you can send an email, you can raise a Slack message, and it will all go into this left column. And then you can actually move it across into your Trello board. And you can also see here a little bit, you can actually synchronize Jira tickets directly into Trello, which I think particularly I'm interested in, because there's a lot of teams like marketing where they maybe don't want to use Jira. They're comfortable with Trello. And I think this is going to be a big move. And I mean, the UI just looks really slick. And it's not just stopping at that. They're bringing out a new iPhone app, an Android app, which will actually let you manage all this stuff from Siri, for example. So you can ask Siri to raise like a Trello ticket, and it'll actually put that into a Trello board for you. So yeah, really kind of Trello hasn't seen many updates for quite a while now. It's good to see that they're continuing to invest in it. If anyone has any questions, just stop me. So yeah, you can use Hey Siri, Slack, messages, emails, and Jira issues all directly into Trello soon. And they've also got this new feature coming, which is a scheduling tool, a planning tool. So similar to the inbox, you can kind of drag your tasks into a Trello board there. I think it looks really good to me. So look out for that in April, which will line up exactly with when Teams is going to be on. So the next one is they've integrated, this was announced on Tuesday, I think, at the Atlassian High Velocity event. They're bringing AI to support. So it's going to use natural language processing to analyze emails and actually triage them for you automatically. So if you're involved in ITSM or service desk, this could be something that you find really useful. And I've got some GIFs of this as well. So you can see, you can kind of ask it for things and it can write those messages back to people for you. You can use Slack to raise tickets, and it has a virtual agent using AI, which will walk you through like the steps for the tickets. So really advancing JSM and making it connect with your sort of best of breed tool stack that you have. And I think this is, you can also summarize tickets, like so. So if you use JSM, I'd encourage you to try this out. I'm not sure if it has like a price attached to it or whether this is a premium feature. I'll have to check on that. And finally, this kind of chatbot tool, which lets you avoid your staff actually processing tickets and instead use AI to answer the tickets for you. And it integrates with things like Workday, which is kind of cool. It can integrate with your HR system and hopefully sort of save you money and time in managing your HR. So yeah, lots of big advancements. This was the big announcement from Tuesday. This one's not so fun. Basically, Opsgenie was a separate product, but now it's being merged into Jira Service Management. Not much to say on this, except it's part of this kind of objective of getting everything on a few platforms and then have Rovo as the kind of thing that goes through the whole thing. And the last piece of news I've got is Codegeist happened, and we knew in January who the winners were. And there was 4 winners, 4 first place winners, which I've got a few screenshots of here. So Vassal and his team, they made this tool for Compass, which actually gives you a drag and drop system to see how all your dependencies connect together. If you've used Compass before, you know that it's quite limited how you can like navigate your dependencies. So this is a really cool tool. It's on the marketplace. I'm not sure what the price is, but this came first place in the software development category. The next one is Campaign Analyzer from SaaSjet, who won first place in executive strategy and planning. If you're a marketer and you use Jira, this can connect your issues to, say, Google Analytics. So you can figure out what was your ROI on particular tasks that you did? Like, what was the impact of what you made? So again, this one's also available on the marketplace too. And the third one is called Runbook Rabbit, if I remember. Basically, if you use runbooks in your company, this can actually read them using Rovo and generate kind of tasks for you to do based on your runbooks in your company. And Julian is from Cybert Media. And finally, Capable also won first place in Teamwork Foundations for our Images app. So Confluence at the moment only lets you insert images from your hard drive. Capable Images lets you create a library of images that you can then insert to pages. And we won first place in the Teamwork Foundations section. So yeah, if you're struggling with image management and assets, then give it a go. And the last piece of news, Team 2025. I actually have some spare tickets to it, so if you're interested in going and you can cover the transport, then we won in Codegeist 4 tickets. So, and I already have a ticket because I'm a community leader. So, so yeah, Team 2025 is going to be awesome. If you can make it, it's in Anaheim, California, and I've got a little video, and then we're going to hand over to the speakers.
Yeah. Bits of news.
Yeah, what did I miss?
Well, not really missed. It's just things that people need to be aware of, I think. Work management's currently been dropped and combined with Jira. That was announced about a year ago. It's actually being rolled out now. So if you're in the cloud, you'll get notifications saying your work management projects are now Jira projects. Your Jira software projects are now Jira projects. So that might affect your users a little bit. Not too much, but just be aware of that change being rolled out. The other one is a little bit, Atlassian haven't been presenting this particular, or advertising this particular, but there's a new user experience coming out for Jira, whereas they've tipped it on its side. Mm-hmm. That's also starting to be rolled out. So I've got 6 or 7 sites that I use, I've got to converted and the rest haven't. So just be aware of that for your users. They're not promoting it or shouting about it as much as I feel they probably should be, considering the reaction that they might get from their users.
It's like Monday then?
Yes, exactly like Monday, yes. But yeah, it's a bit of a shock the day it lands.
Yeah.
They just switched it on.
Yeah.
With no warning, no comms, nothing, just switched it on.
That's right. Yeah, there was a blog that went out, but if you weren't reading every single blog that actually went out, you might have missed this one.
Yeah. So I asked if we could be on the early access program thing.
Right.
Not thinking they would just literally switch it on.
Yeah.
But they did.
Well, you've got to switch and turn it off again for a while, but it's a short term. Anyway.
I got used to it really quick.
Yeah, certainly does. It's not a problem. It's more about warning your users rather than the fact that it's a problem for them.
Is this
That one.
it? So I probably shouldn't show too much here on my instance, but you can see it's got this side panel here, and everything's all very side panel based. I personally really like the new UI. I found
do
it.
I.
Wait, this looks like Notion.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
Holy cow, they are really. Because I've noticed over the past couple of years a slow evolution of even compliments towards Notion as well, and this just reinforces that.
It does.
Wow.
This will be rolled out across conference as well. So again,
Yeah, exactly.
just making sure everyone's aware that it's coming. Because it feels like quite a big change.
Yeah, I think it slipped my mind because I think we're in the EAP for a few months now.
Yes.
But yeah, Confluence as well. If you've probably seen the Confluence changes, I think it's exactly the same concept. What I wish they do is like take it another level and have like Jira and Confluence as just levels in the sidebar. So taking it another level, but yeah, good. Thanks for reminding me about that. Was there anything else?
No, those are the
I've missed.
two big ones that are on my mind at the moment, I think, because they're the ones that are probably affecting customers the most.
Atlas thing as well. They retired Atlas, haven't they?
Well, they retired Atlas, but it's been brought into the product.
Goals.
Atlassian
That's
Home,
still
is it?
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's moved
Yeah.
to Home, which is nice, but you have to kind of ask for it to be an early access if you want it, if you weren't using it already. So it's a little bit of a faff. I'm hoping the next month or so it'll be in the core product, and then you don't have to worry about it. It'll just be there.
So yeah, I've got just a brief video before we hand over to the speakers. If you're in Anaheim, I'll be there also, so come say hi.
Who's guest speaking? Do we know yet?
I think Google and Khan Academy are the two.
Said about Arsene Wenger at the past day.
Yeah, and what was his name? The guy that interviewed him. I've forgotten. That was an interesting discussion, though.
The Ted Lasso one was better though.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm going to hand over to Nigel, who's going to talk about Jira product discovery and how you can use that in your company.
Thank you.
Still one of those? Yeah, one of those.
Just plug it on. Like that. Okay,
Yeah, that's good.
nice. Thank you.
So
Right.
right.
Right, just do a quick screen swap, just a second, and then we'll show you some slides. Just while I'm setting this up, show of hands, who uses Jira Product Discovery at the moment? Couple. All right, that's good. Fantastic. In that case, hopefully, you might learn something. Maybe. Come on in, let's do it. Fantastic. Right, so I'm Nigel. I work for a company called Efficode, who are a solution partner, a platinum solution partner, and that's why I'm wearing the bright yellow, because that's our colours. So I always wear this for events. I lead the Agile practice for Efficode UK, which really means I do two things. I talk to customers about ways of working, product management, portfolio management, sprints, those sort of things, and I'm an Atlassian expert as well. So it's those tools and the ways of working that are what I help my customers with. And fun fact, I was born in Reading, so this is nice coming home for the day, just to remind myself what the city's like. It's great to be back here today and presenting to you guys. So I'm going to talk about Jira Product Discovery. And I'm going to do a little bit of a demonstration if you've not seen it before, just so you can have a look at it. But I'm going to talk a little bit with some sort of, hopefully some thought leadership, or just some things that you should be thinking of if you're managing a product and thinking about what you should be included in your backlogs, how you should be prioritizing, how you should be planning, and basically how you should be spending your investments on your development. So we'll talk a bit about that first, then we'll move on to a bit of a practical demo, show you it. And then hopefully 5 minutes at the end for sort of some Q&A if you want to bounce some questions over. So Jira Product Discovery is Atlassian's probably fastest growing product. It was just over a year old now, coming on to a year and a half. It's been in EAP for a while, but probably just over 10,000 customers using it now. So it's not massive numbers compared to the 300,000 cloud customers, but it's certainly growing rapidly. And we'll hopefully convince you why it's so good when we get to the demonstration. Let's talk about product management first of all. Why are we doing it? And it's really about this sort of strategic advantage that you're hoping that your organization has by building software. Yeah. Can you imagine a bank without a mobile app these days? It just wouldn't be relevant. It probably wouldn't exist. But a lot of organizations are striving for an advantage over their competitors, getting to market faster. And in order to do that, you need some short-term and some long-term plans. You need to have a strategy. And importantly, you need to have an understanding of where you're spending those investments in order to maximize the value and to maximize that competitive advantage. That's really what we're striving towards here. But it's not just planning your backlog and your features. You need a way of your teams delivering that value to your customers. You need to have those tool chains, those development teams, those working practices that make it all happen as well. Because if you just have the plans, but no way of executing them, you're kind of stuck. Things are going to slow down. They're not going to happen. And you also need those enablers at the bottom, the security, the scalability, cloud solutions, or whatever it is you're deploying your software onto. You need those in place. They need to be robust, secure, reliable in order to you customers to love what you've given them and to trust that it'll work when they need it. If you had a mobile phone app, again, that you couldn't get to your budget or pay for your train tickets when you needed it, you're going to move to another bank pretty quickly. That only has to let you down a few times these days. Reliability and security are so important for our customers. Why am I talking about these? It's because you need to think about all these three things as you're planning your investments. Because if you're not, you're only concentrating on one area, and that's not enough these days. It's got to be across all of them. Efficode has developed this thing we call a 3 portfolio model. And again, it's a bit of a thought exercise to try and help our customers understand how they're investing in product development. So let's start on the left-hand side with the development portfolio. Those are things like your technical debt, your bugs, those other sorts of enabler changes that you need. Perhaps you're moving your monolith system onto a cloud-based system. You know, that's quite a large investment in development that you're probably investing in. But you might also be doing small changes like patches and things like that as well. Could be infrastructure, could be code, could be a combination of all of those things. But you need to have that. You have your offering portfolio. It's kind of like the existing product. Are you maximizing the use of the capabilities and features that are in your product? Do your customers, are they aware of them? Are they making use of them? Are they right? Or should you be enhancing them? Had an interesting conversation. I was listening on the radio the other day. You know, the key fobs that you can unlock your cars with. This couple were talking about how they changed the battery on it, and they were just sort of fiddling with it, and the engine started. They'd had the keys 4 years and not realised they could start the engine remotely with their key fob. How about your work menu in Jira? How many people use that one? It's kind of hidden in the top left-hand corner. I show it to so many people. They go, "Oh wow! I wondered where something that useful was." If you're not aware of it, try it. It's hidden. In my opinion, I bet not many people are aware of it and are using it, but it's quite a powerful feature of the tools that's in there. The insights as well on the Scrum boards, very few people are aware of those or use them. The button's there all the time, but people rarely click and investigate unless they're very curious people. There's a lot of features you've probably developed that your customers aren't making enough use of, and that's just waste because you've invested that money in it. Or you've invested the money in the wrong things, and that's useful knowledge if you have. So the offering portfolio is probably the most powerful of these three. The opportunity portfolio, those are your bright new ideas. That's the really thing we're going to be talking about with Jira Product Discovery later as well. But these are your new ideas, your new investments. This is where you're taking the products, possibly even in new directions or just enhancing and moving it and giving new capabilities. All of these three portfolios should be linked to your strategy. They should be linked to what your customers' needs are, your sales channels and routes to market. But they're all constrained by that bottom one, which is how much capability your teams have of delivering those things. So you're constrained all the way around here, but you need to spend money in all three of these blocks in order to maximize your investments and drive your product to success. I find a lot of my customers just deal with the opportunity portfolio. They kind of ignore the others. And some of the scaled agile frameworks kind of skip over the others as well. They concentrate on new product developments and things like that, I think. We've got different sizes of requests. The large ones, they're easy in a way. They're big, they're important, they've got business cases, they've probably got some investment, they've probably got some sponsorship, they've got visibility on the C-level roadmaps and things like that. You know, it's pretty easy to plan those. The small ones are actually pretty easy to plan because they probably just happen without actually anybody thinking about them. Those small changes are the things like, you know, you've got a report that someone runs and they'd like an extra column with a bit more information, or they'd like you to add up a bunch of values so you can get a sum at the bottom, which saves them getting their calculator up and adding it up manually. Those things that just save people time and just make life a bit easier for existing users. It's the thing that keeps customers happy, keeps the love. Those are so important, but they rarely get planned. They kind of tend to happen under the radar, I find. Some developer will I'll just sneak that in a little bit. That's how they happen. Or the product owner kind of signs it off if we're lucky. The middle bit, I find, this squishy middle bit is the tricky bit because it's not large enough to be an investment, to be a roadmap, to get sponsorship. It's not small enough to get kind of in a couple of days. It's those couple of weeks, couple of months type changes. They're very difficult to plan and strategize and fit in. And unless there's something like it's a tactical change to win a deal or something like that, there's not enough pressure to make them happen because there's always a favour for the strategic ones, the big wins. Those middle ones I think are very, very important though. They can be introduced fairly quickly. They've normally got a good purpose behind them, but they quite often get ignored or deprioritised. We'll do it next month, next quarter, next year. They often fall into that trap. And again, I think in terms of portfolios, you need to have a healthy mix of all three in order to be effective as a business. Without the bottom two, you're just concentrating on your strategic change. That's not a good path to success. You'll just annoy your existing customers. You're not giving them what they need. Again, we need to link all these things up to our goals. Hopefully you've got product goals that define what it is you're trying to achieve. Hopefully you understand your customers. And hopefully you've got telemetry and feedback loops that tell you if you're doing the right thing or not. That's what drives these changes and behaviours. We're getting closer to Jira product discovery now. One of the things I find with a lot of my customers who haven't got Jira product discovery is they've got a Jira project, Jira software, and it's got a backlog of stuff. And people wake up in the morning, have an idea in the shower, they get to work and they create a Jira ticket and throw it in there. Probably a line or two if we're lucky. And this grows, and it grows and it grows and it grows. And people create bugs and people create changes and people add more things and more things. And suddenly you could be managing thousands of tickets, years and years and years worth of backlogs. And it's a mess. And it feels depressing for the teams because they just see this endless strawl of stuff that they can't ever keep up with because more stuff's arriving all the time. It takes time for the product owner or product manager to go through it all, prioritize it, farm it, weed it. It's hard work. And it's not useful. It's not valuable at all. So what Jira Product Discovery does is it lets you split out that backlog into a separate project. That's a Jira Product Discovery project. And we use it to store the ideas. And if someone wakes up in the morning and has an idea, we get them to put it in there. And I call this the opportunity backlog because it's an opportunity for us to enhance our product somehow. It's not a commitment that we're going to do it. It's an idea. Thank you for the idea. We'll sit and think about it. We'll prioritize it. We'll think about it. We'll plan it. We'll work out when we've got capacity. And if we like the idea and we see its value, then we'll bring it into the delivery backlog. The delivery backlog is the Jira software project, effectively, without all the ideas in it. This is a smaller backlog. It's more focused. It's more committed. If you're an agile organization, you might not do all the things in the delivery backlog, but we're certainly more likely to do them because we're committing to them, we're thinking about them more seriously than in the opportunity backlog. And there should be a feed from the opportunity backlog to the delivery backlog as capacity emerges. So if you're doing quarterly planning, that's a good time to have a look at the opportunity backlog and to bring those ideas forward and start pushing on them. That separation is so powerful. That's one of the key benefits of this tool. It just makes life so much easier. The other benefit is about roadmaps. A lot of my customers say, Nigel, we want to have a roadmap for the next 3 years. I'm like, why would you do that to yourself? Have you not thinking that the world's going to change in the next 3 years? Are your products not going to evolve in the next 3 years? Why do you want to commit to that and remove all the agility from your company? But we've got to have a plan, sure. But let's split the plans. Let's have a delivery roadmap, which is the things we are committed to, the short-term radar, next 3 to 6 months, something like that, whatever radar length you want to choose. That's what we're committed to. That's what we're focusing on in development. Everything else is going to be a vision. And that vision means we can change our mind. If new opportunities evolve, we might strive for them. If new threats come in from our competitors, we might do things to avoid them. Because we've not promised anything, we have that ability to be agile. So separating out the roadmaps into vision and roadmap is another powerful outcome. And this is what the tool helps you do. So I'm going to introduce Jira Product Discovery. We're going to use it to capture ideas and those insights. We'll talk about those in a minute. We're going to use it to prioritize. We're going to engage with our stakeholders, get their feedback, I hope. We're going to hopefully focus on outcomes rather than just features as well. Basically get a handle on chaos sometimes. And we're going to work out if we're actually delivering these things, what the progress of the delivery is. This is our aim. So let's introduce you to a friend of mine, Jira Product Discovery. So for Jira Product Discovery, we have various screens on the left on the sidebars. Okay, this first one over here is just some of the ideas I've got in my demonstration site. And I've got this idea of having like a pizza shop where we're building some apps to support the pizza delivery service. I've got some other ideas about things I might do in the future as well that are in here. That's what we're capturing these ideas for. I've got some statuses because these are Jira tickets. They've got statuses, fields, all the things you're used to. And I'm linking some of these things to some of the goals of the organization or the product as well. So I can start seeing if these align to what I'm trying to do with the product. And if they do, you see the little weighted symbol, the little scales, they give me numbers and I can start prioritizing those depending on are they aligning to my goals. If they're not, if we've got low numbers like that one over there, perhaps we should do that one. If we've got high numbers, maybe we should think about that some more. We're trying to put some science behind the prioritization of these ideas. I have never met an organization that has got more capacity to deliver than it has ideas or things it wants to change. Not one of my customers ever has been in that situation. They all need to prioritize and ruthlessly say no or even not yet to those ideas as they come in order to keep a handle on it, in order to keep on top of it. If you can show why you're saying not yet to your stakeholder, I think you're being very fair and you're managing this backlog. The insights, another incredibly powerful feature. In order to justify why we're reaching those goals, in order to justify why we think it's important, valuable, high impact or whatever, we need some evidence. So this lets us capture evidence against the idea. Maybe some screenshot from a competitor's website, a forestry report that says this is the next big thing. Letter from a customer saying I'm going to leave if you don't do this. Whatever it is, doesn't matter. Gather the evidence and prove it back to someone. Why is this valuable? Why do we think this is going to have this much impact on our customers? We can have documents. We can have various other fields. This view is very flexible. I've added a persona field as well, and I could weight those with numbers as well if I want to. But I'm trying to identify who this is valuable to as I set these up. The ideas get created by anybody who has a Jira license or you allow onto the site. And as they create ideas, this is just using the standard issue create, but we could use a form if we wanted to as well. You can see I've set up this template that captures all of the information that is good practice for defining ideas. What is it you're trying to do? Who is it for? What value does it bring? That's the template that we're expecting people to bring in. We want quality ideas right from the off. If we've just got that single line, I want this, it's not enough. Those should just get binned. There's different templates you can choose, all following different sorts of good practices to capture those ideas, depending on which one suits. Really, really powerful. Once we've gathered the ideas, we need to prioritize. This is the product owner doing their stuff. So there's a couple of different views I've set up just to kind of play with some ways of prioritization. So this is using RICE, which is reach, impact, confidence, effort, and it's formula based on those values over there. I'm still showing my goal, I'm still showing the summary, things like that, but I'm capturing some extra information. How big is this? What impact is it going to have? I'm using the insights, I hope, to justify those. And the score, I'm then prioritizing by that, which is quite a blunt tool, but it's a really good way of presenting something in quite a non-negotiable way. And I find lots of my customers have what I call WSL prioritization, or who shouts loudest. This helps you avoid that, because we can have evidence that says that is the most important item by this criteria that we've set out in our business. So we're making our product management practices very transparent, and hopefully bringing that organization on board to what we're trying to achieve. This is also a really, really beautiful interface. I've got little happy faces, hearts, things like that. They feel a bit gimmicky, but they're so important, because if someone's giving you ideas, you want to give them some feedback. Is that a good idea? Is it not? That is a really good idea. Lots of hearts. That one isn't. Yeah? So we're not having to explain to someone your idea sucks or isn't as good as other ideas. They can see it for themselves. So although they feel a bit gimmicky, they are actually really, really powerful. And it's quite an engaging interface as well, which encourages people who are not Jira users to start using this tool. So another view. And we can create different sorts of views depending on the story or how you're going to prioritize things. If you're doing scaled agile, weighted shortest job first is another technique. Similar sort of thing. I'm capturing different values. I'm working out a Worcester value at the end there, and I'm ordering that by the formula I've calculated in order to present it, just so I can give feedback. Very, very straightforward and easy to set up. A few of these come out of the box, but they're very easy to configure new formulas and screens if you want to. We've got some other screens that help you also prioritize. This is one of my favorite, the impact versus effort. So it's similar to the RICE, but I'm just showing you on a chart. So impact on the left, effort at the bottom half. So on the bottom left is low impact, low effort. If we want to prioritize our backlogs or ideas, the top left quadrant is low effort and high impact. In other words, quick wins. That's the quarter I'm doing first. The next quarter is this one, high impact, but a lot more effort. Bottom left, it's not going to take us too long, but it's not that big an impact on our customers. Bottom right, frankly, we're never going to get around to these. New ideas will have come in by then. By the time we get around to those, the world's changed. But we can start asking some questions. That one in the top right-hand corner, why is that so big? It's high impact. Could we do half of that work earlier? Could we deliver 20% or 30% of the functionality in order to get quick feedback from our customers and some impact and value to our customers? If we can do that, that goes to the left, or we split it into two. Now we're being agile. It's a really powerful discussion to start having. This one down here, you'll get people going, but I wanted that, I want that. Okay, what do we do to change it? How could we improve that so we can deliver it faster? Those are the sorts of conversations I want with my stakeholders. Again, this is the point of this tool, stakeholder engagement as much as we can, rationalising why we're prioritising some ideas over others. There. We've got some more screens. I'm just trying to, on my demo, give you an example of some of the screens we can set up. All of these are optional. You could just have the ideas one if you wanted to. Some of these are useful. So I want, again, feedback. So if I set up a simple roadmap, now, next, someday, I can put some ideas in where each of these columns, I can get feedback from my stakeholders. We're planning on doing these next. After that, we'll do these. We're thinking about doing these sometimes in the future, maybe. Really easy for people to understand. They're not having to worry about Gantt charts or anything like that. That's as simple as it gets. You could, I always put a Q4 on there just as a prompt to remind me. You could have Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4 if you wanted to as well. And you could put items in those Kanban boards as well if you want a quarterly plan for people. However you want to work with your stakeholders, this tool will let you do it. Very, very useful for getting that feedback. Again, lots of things like the goals, the impact scores, things like that. You can customize these cards very powerfully. Next, we're going to link it to delivery. So this field here appears on this view here. I probably wouldn't share this with my stakeholders. Might do, but I might not. If I click into here, you can see that this is where we're linking to Jira Software. I've got some epics that we're linking to. That epic has got some stories underneath it. I can see the progress of those. I've got these here. My idea, I expect, will be decomposed into multiple stories, epics, things like that. And I can create new tickets from there if I want to, or just link to existing tickets. But I can see the progress. If I'm a stakeholder, I can see that you're working on this for me. It might be that we're delivering it over a few months or even years, but you can see the progress is coming. I can see things are being delivered. Really good feedback. Really, really like this capability. And I like the separation. This is the separation between the delivery backlog, the roadmap here, and the opportunity roadmap. This is where the two come together at this point. Very clear separation. And, need my glasses because I'm so blind these days. We could also play with teams, allocating things to different teams if you want that sort of visualization. Say very, very flexible. These are just Kanban boards that we're creating. Down over here, you can see we've got just different sorts of list views, boards, matrices, timelines. Those are the different capabilities that we have. You can just choose which of those you want. You can then share them with your stakeholders if you want to, or keep them private for your product management team. Final view over here. If you do want timelines, and some of our customers do, we can start putting roadmaps over traditional dates. This is probably the bit that I find confuses the customers the most, because they're starting to see timelines. They're thinking about these as roadmaps. It's not a bad way to think of it, but I just want people to think of this as an opportunity plan. We might not do these things. It's separate from the delivery plan, which has got its own roadmap. That's the tour of the product. Any questions, any comments? Any experience of people using it?
Is there a sort of sweet spot in size of team? As in like 100 to 500 versus 10 to 50? You know, so as in like because again, like if you've got like a small number of people, you can kind of probably do this.
You don't need this, yeah.
But then, does it scale beyond a couple of thousand people type of thing? As in like when you get to kind of like super large, safe type of stuff?
It does scale.
Yeah.
You do need to think about how you're going to scale it. Yeah. So there is a premium edition of Jira Product Discovery, which is quite recent, that groups together multiple projects.
Yes,
so if you
multiple discoveries.
Absolutely. So that's how it scales, and that's quite a recent change. So if you were doing scaled agile, you'd probably have different product discovery projects representing value streams or products or parts of it, and then you aggregate it up if you need to. How low does it scale? I think it can scale quite low, but the problems I expressed at the start, like the backlog management, the stakeholder engagement, they need to be there. Yeah. If you've got a really good relationship with your product owner, if they're managing the backlog already, you could just do all this in a Jira project if you needed to. It's just if things are chaotic, that's a really good opportunity for the tool, because then it comes in and helps fix problems.
Cool. You were talking about kind of getting users to feedback. Are people actually voting on elements in this, or are they actually doing anything? I mean,
I've never seen the voting used.
Okay.
I've never seen the voting used in Jira either. It's a useful feature if you want to be a democracy, but I always find that product owners don't live in a democracy. They tend to work for their shareholders and things like that. So that WSL still trickles down a little bit.
Right. Yeah, I'm just curious about where some of the numbers were coming from. So in terms of the kind of impact assessment, they are assessment numbers. They're rating
yes,
numbers,
and I would
numbers, not.
Yeah, and I would tend to have like a relative estimation or some sort of text behind that explains, if it's a 3-point impact, what does that mean? Is that this many customers or something like that? There needs to be science behind all of these things in order for it to work. There's a huge risk with this product of it becoming gamified. Yeah. You look at the backlog and you go, I've given it the impacts and the reach and things, and I don't like the results, is the problem. So you fix the values in order to get the results you want, and that's the anti-pattern. So many people easily fall into that. So you need to have firm reasoning behind your justifications for those things. And if you've not set those out, again, it's a weak solution. The tool can't fix that for you. Okay.
because we have initiative level, bit of a duplication.
Interesting. Yes.
So we couldn't trust product to follow process and actually move to the central initiative
Yeah.
project we had. They would just link epics and stuff directly to ideas, and that then messed up our 5Q
Yes.
plan.
Agreed.
So, and some people felt uncomfortable with like 2 different roadmaps.
Yes.
So we've moved that software now. We manage ideas all on the same workflow.
Okay.
And it seems to be working well, but obviously now we've moved product into that space. They're like, well, they're missing all the functionality that
This
JDK
has. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can build a lot of this, like the rice calculations. You can use automation for. I've had exactly the same problem with one of my recent customers. It's not a problem. Discussion. I like initiatives because they are traceable all the way through, and linking items to goals doesn't feel the same. I like the hierarchy, it appears in plans. They're also a bit more solid, I feel, than an idea. So with that situation, I've moved the customers to initiatives, epic stories, the same as you're describing. We're still using Jira Product Discovery, but for the purpose I've described, which is splitting the ideation from the what we're actually doing. And an initiative, even if you've got something set up, tends to be a strategic change. They might come in from the ideas as a very large, big idea, but then they quickly turn into initiatives and then they get tracked that way. You've still got a value, I think, in those medium and small items, which will still come through Jira Product Discovery. And it's that separation of opportunities versus delivery that is so valuable. And combining them does work. You can make it work as long as you're well behaved, you're tidy, you close things, you keep things moving, you don't overcommit. If you can get all that working, brilliant, you'll be fine with your software. But this helps with that. So it still could provide value.
I always liked it, but then we had also the issue with we had everything in one Jira Product Discovery project. But then there was, lots of conversations around standardising the workflow fields, blah blah blah, so that we could report on it. And then other teams just went off and
Yeah.
projects, and then it all.
But you can have lots of different views on the left with different filters. So you can sort of filter by product, or you can have multiple projects if you need to. There's lots of ways of splitting that up. I've had similar problems before, but it's the workflow. It's an ideation workflow. There shouldn't be any discussion about this because it is separated. If you're trying to mix delivery and ideation, that's when you get into discussions about workflows. Really, your workflow for ideation, I haven't assessed it. I've assessed it. I'm thinking about it. Yes, no. Yeah.
I think that was the main problem. Was product was starting to solutionize and actually
Yes.
ideas were becoming delivery.
Yeah.
Kits.
Right. Yeah. No,
So-
it stops at that point.
Yeah.
All we're saying at the end of this workflow is I have accepted your idea. It's now moved to engineering.
Yeah.
Engineering can pick it up on their boards and start doing their stuff. And at that point, it might stop because they might go too tricky, too expensive, whatever. Yeah.
So now, on a single workflow, we can control from prioritization is what we call the last step of the product workflow.
Yeah.
When it's ready for consideration against our 5QP. So we've got a validator.
Yeah.
in the
Makes sense.
workflow, so
Yeah.
they can't just move things into the 5QP. So it's forcing those planning conversations and stuff. So it seems to be working quite well. We've still got JPD, so who knows? We might
I might have convinced you today, maybe.
there are some teams still using it.
Right.
It's just anything that's part of our OVO core tech or our pod structure now
Yeah.
has to come through that process.
Good.
So we'll see how it works. Try
Okay.
it.
Yeah. Keep going. Any other questions from anybody?
I noticed on some of these across the interface they had different colours.
Yep.
Like one was red on the top and blue on the bottom.
Mhm.
What does that mean?
So which ones?
I think on all of them, these tickets have different colours on the left. I was just intrigued as to what that means.
Oh, yeah. With the sort of the sides has got the green and the blue.
Yeah, that-
Yeah. So that's the ratings and the impact. It's trying to be more visual about feeding back how it's doing. I think. Yeah. It's it's quite funny.
I have a question on this page.
Yes.
When you've got on the reach column, you've got all the smiley faces and
Yep.
winky faces and heart faces. Do people do they have the ability to change them around?
Yes.
And if they did, what would be the it obviously could be a bit negative if you were replacing the smiley face with a neutral face.
Yes.
And people get too disheartened. But do you think it exists the other way, where you can make people think they're having a good idea when they're not?
I want people to think they're having a bad idea when they are having a bad idea.
Yeah.
And it's not a bad idea. There's no such thing as a bad idea. But compared to the other ideas that may be in the system, their idea isn't as good as the others.
Yeah.
For now. And that is a message I want to get across to people. Because we can't do everything. As I mentioned before, there's more ideas than there's capacity. So we have to be ruthless. And product owners should be regularly saying, not yet. Thank you for your idea, not yet. We'll keep it on our system, so we keep referring back to it, but we can't promise to deliver this in the next year, so we're closing it.
So would you see, like on a longer board where you've got your rice score
Yeah.
as a 10,
Yeah,
it would be a sad face with 2 thumbs down?
pretty much, if you want to. Yeah,
Nice. That's
definitely. I want to give that sort of feedback,
Yeah.
but I also want to reflect when people have created a good idea as well, because I want to encourage more. But that feedback of, those smiley faces, good, I had a good idea. That one, not so good. Oh, well, maybe you're not going to choose my idea. That's a really good help for the product owner, because that message when we say not yet, sorry, they're kind of expecting it. Yeah.
You just don't want the one finger emoji on number 1.
No. Well, if you choose that, that's your choice. Yeah, I wouldn't be that brutal.
Yeah.
I think that's the message. Yeah. But that feedback is so useful
Yeah.
here.
It's a good idea.
Yeah. And I'm really hoping Atlassian brings some of these user interface elements into the rest of Jira, because I kind of, every time I go to this and go look at the progress bar, all these and stuff, I kind of go, can I have those, please?
I have an insight into why that is not done yet, because I've spoken to Atlassian at Team 24, and basically, because of the internal politics, they can afford a higher development velocity by separating it into different products.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah. But these are platform features now, or should be.
they should be.
So they shouldn't take a long time to get into the fold. Hey ho.
You can do something similar with like Foxley,
Yes.
price scores, but
Yes, you can.
it's
Yeah.
not as nice an interface.
Yeah, Foxley's probably going to be in fierce competition with this now, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, Foxley's all part of the same backlog generally,
Yeah.
and that separation, I think, is I keep coming back to that, is the beauty of this
It's a
tool for me.
mindset, right, more than-
Absolutely, yeah. And I think, every time I explain this tool to customers, I point out that this shines a huge spotlight on your product management practices. If you have immature product management practices, it will be transparent as anything. Yeah, because it will just grow and be a mess. This is an excuse to up your game. And quite often we sell training courses and things to go along with this, to teach product owners and product managers how to be better, firmer, more decisive
What's
product
interesting
managers.
is there's a whole massive category of products in this exact niche. So AHA is the first one.
Yes.
Right? And then Product Board became quite
Yep.
big a few years ago.
Smart sheets as
We
well, I've
actually
seen
use
used.
Airfocus in my company,
All right, okay.
which is very similar to this, except it's got lots more bells and whistles and
Yeah.
priority poker and fancy customer-facing portal and
Yeah.
feedback and all integrations, you name it. But it feels like finally Jira's trying to take a step up and
It's definitely
and put
going after
its
AHA.
own foot firmly into that
Yeah,
category.
Yes,
That's
it
what I
is.
think is happening.
definitely.
It's really interesting.
Yeah.
They've chosen now to do it. Wonder why now, and not
I-
years ago.
I don't know.
Because AHA has been around for many decades, right? I
Yeah.
haven't ever used it, but I think it's been around for a long
I think they were concentrated so much on the cloud platform growth
Yeah.
that they're not pushing
But
it.
it's interesting. It's been like you said, it's a year old.
It's almost 18 months now, I think. Yeah,
Okay, right.
yeah.
It's quite new.
It is still new. Yeah, I mean it's going to evolve as well. I think things like the public roadmaps and things like that, they're
that's what
starting to
hasn't
see
happened
some
yet,
of those.
But that would be my prediction. Is that's the next wave.
Yeah.
Has to be the public facing. Yeah.
Isn't that what this publish button is?
That is the thing that publishes it to your stakeholders. Yes.
But that's still
Yes,
internal.
it
It's
is.
Not, it's not external.
Yeah, you can now publish externally.
Oh, you can.
Yes.
Ah.
Yeah, which is good. But I think
What does it
that
look like? Can you show what that looks like?
it's exactly the same. It's just this view.
Oh,
Without
no,
the
what I'm
sidebar.
talking about, it's different. So with these other products in the same
Yes,
category,
it's a bit nicer,
fancy
yes.
kind of interactive, almost like it's a little website where the customer can,
Yes.
can log in or
Yeah.
access it securely, and then they can submit feedback.
That's the bit
on-
I'm hoping they'll
they
evolve.
They can see the now, next, later, whatever you want to
Yeah.
frame it as,
and they can also submit new ideas, and they can feedback on now, next, later things.
Yeah.
That's that whole like
Product
product itself.
It does, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly it.
This is still catch up with a harm
but
product board,
I can't wait to
but
see
the
that happen.
but the integration is what makes this.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So you the price point is good as well. You know, it's yeah, exactly.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
That's product board is very expensive.
Yeah. Two more things before I finish. I won't be much longer. So, if you want to look at the public roadmap, it is a Jira product discovery project. So just search for that because it's really interesting to hear how Atlassian are using it themselves for their own product. They're not doing that for any of the other tools, which is a shame. Just saying. The second, there's a wonderful handbook that they've written called the Jira Product Discovery Handbook. Atlassian has started to be quite prescriptive about how they envision customers using their tools. And they've written a really decent handbook about some of the things I've talked about today, you know, having back portfolios where you understand your investments, how you get feedback from customers, how you prioritize, how you say not yet to things, those sorts of stuff. It's a really, really well written guide. Recommend you check it out. The slides did have that on the first page. If anybody wanted to see it, it's on the last page, I should say. There it is there. That is, if you wanted a photo of it, on the bottom there, if you can just about see it, that's the link to it. Or just Google Jira Product Discovery Handbook and you'll find it in seconds anyway. But that's a really nice read. So if you are adopting the tool, have a read of that. Thank you all.
Haiku stands for Hybrid Cloud Uptime. Okay, so it kind of rhymes with the Japanese poem Haiku, so small but powerful. So that's the idea. So once you start using Haiku software, the tool, yeah, I can kind of promise you that it's kind of so simple that you don't need another degree or anything like that. So it's easy to, it's just like an iPhone, you can just use it. So, but yeah, in terms of today, what we're going to cover is how do you safeguard your Atlassian cloud and how to make the business continuity easy. That's the idea there. In terms of this, we'll cover how the modern IT landscape is, okay, so how things have changed or evolved over time, and we'll go through quickly in terms of the resilience and regulation frameworks. So we'll touch on the ISO 27001, and then more importantly, the demo. I'll show you that one so you can kind of see it yourself and ask questions, and which is going to be the last one there. Okay. Just a quick intro about Haiku itself. I already said Hybrid Cloud Uptime. We are headquartered in Boston. We have presence over 78 countries with 4,600 customers. We're backed by venture capitalists, Bain Capital, Accru, Atlassian, the tech investors, Cisco Investments, and Okta Ventures. With respect to the evolution of the app workloads, if you want to consider that way, 15 years ago, how were things? They were everything within the data center, siloed. So it's like a Ford, Fast forward to now, how things are, it's all SaaS, right? Which is basically software as a service, and it's been hosted by the vendors themselves, Atlassian and all of the companies there, you can see there, okay? It's great to have these SaaS applications, right? Because it boosts productivity, increases the market competitiveness. It's brilliant. However, one thing is in terms of the loss of data, if you think about it, because it's your data, so then you need to understand that the data is all everywhere, okay? So that's something to consider, and that's a critical thing to note, okay? So that brings to the next point where in terms of the loss of data, which kind of is quite, that's it can happen in different formats, right? It can be an accident deletion, or could be the ransomware attack, bad actors are out there. So just to kind of, not to scare, but also idea is to say that the risk is real, okay? It's not like hypothetical, it's real, okay? So that's why you have all of these coming up. It's also, it doesn't matter, who is actually hosting those SaaS, right? It could be huge, big companies, right? It's not just the risk is with smaller third-party vendors. It could be big companies or anybody, okay? But it's not too bad in terms of, there's guidance in terms of how you can actually, how you can actually protect your data and what are the frameworks that are available. So you have all these options in terms of, in the resilience. So the FCA talks about how you can actually have a business continuity plan for the financial and industries. Also the ISO framework, you may have heard of it already, right? Is any organization ISO certified? Which I think most will be, right? If not yours, then your customers will be ISO certified, right? So yeah, so these are the bits that, to consider that. So these regulations actually help you out to kind of have that business continuity in place. Also, sometimes enforce you as well to kind of have that in a specific way, okay? I'm not going to go too much into all of these, but just a pointer to say that you might have customers who are ISO certified, you are ISO certified yourselves. Your data is everywhere, okay? And it's a shared responsibility model, okay? As in, although the vendor companies or the SaaS vendors host your, it's hosted by themselves, your data is there, but it still is your responsibility to have, protect that data. They would basically protect the service, they have the uptime for whatever, availability and things that way, but it's your data, right? With respect to the compliance, the FCA, is anybody from the finance industry in here, anyone? Okay, so it's just to quickly go through that in terms of this, primarily to make sure that there's things have changed and there's a timeline or deadline, 31st of March 2025, by which you need to be actually, the impact tolerance. How good is your organization on the impact tolerance, and you got to verify and validate it by that date. This was announced 3 years ago and things that way. So, but yeah, so that's in terms for the finance industries. But in terms of the ISO, obviously you've heard all of these ones. Clearly, the ISO standard specifically calls out 3 items in there: the information backup, IS continuity, and the handling of assets, right? So you got to have backup your data. That's the main thing, right? And validate it regularly, okay? And making sure that you understand that information is not just data; it's actually an asset, okay? And that needs to be protected, okay? So in terms of the ISOs, they call out specifically, to back up your data wherever the data is, right? You regularly back up and frequency of backups. You kind of segregate your workloads to say this is my critical workload, non-critical workload, and the critical workload you back up more frequently, and you got to keep that data for a specific amount of time to meet the compliance. If it's a finance industry, it could be years, that you got to keep the data for, right? And yeah, so you got to follow all of that. So these things are already in, these standards are there in place. It's just that you got to recognize that these are there. We get customers asking us that we are ISO certified, but we have now moved from on-prem to the cloud, for example, if it's Jira, and now we want to make sure that that data, which was protected when it was within the data center, now it's over to the cloud. We want to make sure that it is protected too there. So with respect to the compliance building blocks, it's typically, it's like planning, prevention, business continuity, and the DR. Okay, so I'm not going to go through all of these building blocks, but the main thing to understand here that if you are backing up your data regularly and also validating it, right, more than half of these building blocks turn green. Okay, so that as simple as that. So all you got to next worry about is those white ones, right? But so that's the idea with Haiku, right? If you're backing up with Haiku and validating it with Haiku, then yeah, your half your worry is kind of resolved. Okay. Right. That was a short kind of slides, for you to kind of quickly understand what Haiku is, what to do, and also business continuity, right? If you and how you do it. The most important now will be the demo. Any questions before I go to the demo?
On the FCA regulation you're saying is coming in, like, how are they going to actually enforce it?
As with anything that comes new, it would be a challenge, however, but it's also, there's a responsibility from the finance organizations to put it up front, saying that we've already performed that. Yeah. So you play on the front foot, if you see what I mean, in terms of you say that we've already validated it, and this is how we do it. But in terms of how they're going to enforce it, yeah, so I think that's something that we ought to come and say, because the timeline is 31st of March, and there's like a
I mean, are they going to deregulate people because they haven't done it, or
I imagine it's going to be fine.
there'll be fines. Yes, yes, yeah, right. That's probably
I
what.
don't think they need to proactively regulate it. I think if you're like your ATMs fail for a week and no one can get money out of the bank, that's where they've got the ability now to fine the bank for the lack of service, whereas they didn't have that before.
okay?
I think that's what they'll do.
Oh, sorry. So Haiku, we're 100% SaaS, okay? As in pretty much all the software that we use is software as a service. We realized quite early the challenge of using that data, outside our data centers. Then we started addressing it by ensuring that different modules can be backed up or different SaaS services can be backed up, okay? Our portal is rcloud.haiku.com. Sorry, okay, r-cloud.haiku.com is like a recovery cloud if you want to think of it. You can sign in as a local user, or you can sign in with Microsoft or Google. Okay, what you see there is the R graph, something that we've understood as well, as we are 100% SaaS. As so easy is to kind of go and subscribe to some of the services today, online, and the different teams within the organization do it. But how much do the IT or the security team is aware that what are the SaaS applications that the team use or the organization uses? There's no one place where you can visualize all these SaaS applications, and that's why we brought up something called an R graph, where we will integrate with the Azure Entra ID, okay, and then bring up this graph called R graph, where, sorry. Okay, just switch to the subscription level, and this is we have two levels: the subscription and the protection set level. Okay, and the subscription level covers the entire organization. Okay, sorry, we would basically integrate with the Azure Entra ID or Okta if one of these are your identity providers your organization uses. As typically any SaaS application, right? Customers are using Atlassian, they would sign in using their Azure ID, right, or any other identity providers that they may be using. So we get all this data from the identity provider themselves, right, and then we bring up in this graph called R graph, where you can see all the SaaS applications your organization uses. Okay, it could be Atlassian, Jira, Confluence, work management, or it could be product discovery, it could be Trello, or it could be GitHub, GitLab, could be anything. And all of that gets displayed in here. Okay, it's one place to visualize all your SaaS applications. And then first is to understand or assess that the data that you have, the SaaS data, that's everywhere. That's your data as an organization, or it could be your customers' data that in here. The thing to understand is, like you can see the green checks in there. There's some orange blobs in here. Okay. What are they? So this basically is an organization. This is your organization, Demo Haiku, for example. And in here, these orange blobs they're placeholders. So what we do is, as we basically discover the SaaS applications, we put them under a placeholder. We call it protection set. So for example, if it's like Salesforce, then it would be under an orange blob called sales and marketing. Okay, these things can be changed. But we try to organize that data in such a way that you can understand, right? And if it's like, for example, you can see here for Atlassian, they would all be under DevOps. Okay, you can see here it's quite big. Okay, so Atlassian products. So it's basically all these orange blobs are, all these orange blobs are placeholders for depending on the type of application that your organization uses. Okay, the other benefit out of these protection sets or the placeholders is like there may be one team managing blob A, for example, collaboration. So you give them granular access, so they manage their things in terms of backup and recovery of those applications. They would not have a view of other, applications, or they would not have any, any sort of permissions to the other application itself. Okay, so the individual teams manage their backup and recovery, or if it's one team managing everything, you could rearrange them as well, so that options are also available.
Sorry, can I ask
Yeah, please go for it.
If someone then uses Okta to log into something else, does it just appear in one of the groupings?
If they use,
Are you continually kind of like scanning?
oh yes, absolutely, yeah, that's right. Yeah, this is like an integration that's there with the identity provider. So we have something called Discover Services, which is in here, settings and Discover Services. Okay, so you could use either Okta or Entra ID today, and that's a continuous monitoring of it. So it basically gets it regularly, syncs up with the identity provider regularly, and brings up that R graph. Okay, also in terms of, so that's the high level in terms of the R graph. With respect to all the SaaS applications that we protect today, we have a marketplace in here. Okay, so with respect to, we've tried to organize it in a way that you can actually pick your module that you would like to back up. Okay, if it's Atlassian, just click on the Atlassian cloud, and you would see all the apps that we support today. I'm just trying to perhaps, just 1 second. That's one of those things with the Safari. Okay, hopefully you can see this in here at the bottom. So we do cover, quite a broad range here with Atlassian products. So product discovery, service management, service Jira software, of course. Work management, Tempo timesheets, Trello. Okay, so these are the bits that we cover. So basically we're adding a lot more. Okay, we also cover from Atlassian the Bitbucket as well. So that's actually part of the repos in here. Okay, so we can, in addition to GitHub and GitLab, we cover the Bitbucket as well. Okay, we also protect TriID, Okta, identity provider themselves. Okay, so with respect to Haiku, you can choose where you want to back them up to, where do you want to back it to. So for example, you want to back it to a bucket in.
Sorry, I'm just checking to see if you need anything else, or if you'd like me to clear the plates. We have some.
Not yet.
No? Okay, that's fine.
Thanks.
Sorry,
So, yeah, so basically in terms of where you want to back it to, it could be into the cloud, AWS S3 bucket, or it could be a Google Cloud Storage, or it could be an Azure Storage account, or it could be a cost-effective Wasabi where you can keep them for just the backup data. Okay, so that's up to you. With respect to backing up Jira itself, it's so easy, as in like if you start now, we'll be done within an hour. Okay, as in completely. Initially, all you need is to go in. Obviously, accessing Jira is so easy. You can just go into Jira, create a service account in there, okay, and then create a API token for that service account. Come back in here onto Haiku, settings, sources. This is your data that you'd like to protect, okay. We do have everything in here in addition to that SaaS, and in here you click on new, and now just say Jira. Okay, let's say it's a Jira software that you would like to protect. Okay, give it a name. Protection set is basically, as I said, there's a placeholder. You want to group them into a specific, a placeholder called engineering, or you can name your own placeholders. All you got to do is give your organization name, which is basically the way you would sign into Atlassian, right? You would have something like yourorg.atlassian.net. You log into that, and that yourorg is what you feed in there. And then the username and the API token. You could even use yours as in your email ID and your API token. Obviously, for the production, you don't want to use that, but even that would work in here. Okay, and once you add them in here, they would get displayed. So I'm switching to a protection set called DevOps. In the SaaS in here, you would see all your source data. As in, if it's like a Jira software, you would see all your projects here. If it's a Confluence, you would see all your spaces here. Okay, so for example, Confluence, you can even say you don't want to back up personal spaces, you just want to have the global space and the community spaces. That's possible too. Okay, so the source data that you see here is what you would like to back up, right? This is what your source data would be. We do a lot many things as well. So that's why you see a lot of other ones. Very soon you'll see, oh, maybe it's in the engineering. Just bear with me a second. Yeah, there you go. So that's why you see in engineering all the source projects. It could be JSM as well. It could be a JSM project, Confluence, work management, product discovery. Okay, so we do back up all of them. This is the source data, and then where do you want to back it to? To a target. It could be like a Google Cloud Storage or an S3 bucket. You just add them in here with the tokens. Very similar way that you added the source for Atlassian, just add the target, the S3 bucket or a Google Cloud Storage. Once you've done that, the health comes up as green, so you're good to kind of go and store data in there. What connects your source to the target is basically a policy. So everything is policy based. So in the policy is where you specify how often you want to back up, how long you want to retain. So this is what the regulations that we talked about earlier, right? With respect to ISO, your critical workloads, right? What's the frequency of backups of your critical workloads? The important Jira software projects, right? There are important ones. There are non-critical projects as well. So you may want to first categorize them. And for the critical projects, you may want to back it up more frequently. With Haiku, you can even do it within every hour if you'd like to. Okay, and you can store it in the target. Okay, that we just created.
Can you have multiple targets?
Good point. Yeah, as in they can have multiple copies of your backup.
Yeah. Say I wanted to put my backup in S3
Yes.
and Google Drive.
Yes, absolutely. So excellent question. Yes, that's what you can. You can also have that. So for example, we have backup. You have a copy. Okay. On top of that, you can also have archiving. So archiving is like the grandfather, father, son kind of compliance model where you have weeklies, monthlies, and yearlies on top of your regular backups. Okay, so you can have multiple copies of your data, no problems at all there. And the good thing with Haiku is we don't charge you for number of copies. It's only the source data is the license model. Okay. You can also have backup window and things that way. So if you want to do it off peak hours, if that's the way your teams are doing it, there's no problem at all. Okay, you create this policy, okay, in terms of how frequently you would like to back up and how long you want to retain, how many copies you want, and that's all these kind of your data protection strategy is basically fed into this policy parameters, right? And once this is created, all you do is go and assign that policy. For example, you created a policy called critical policy for your critical workloads. In here, all you do is identify your critical workloads, select them. There's multiple ways to do it. There's good filters in here. Okay, you can choose to kind of see those projects and things that way. And once you identify, select them in here, and then all you do is set policy in the top right, and then assign that critical workload policy here. And then the backup will start straight away. If there's a backup window, then it will honor the backup window. It will only happen, it will start when the backup window starts. Any questions, anything up till now? Please.
Does it support a tiered backup structure? For example, in AWS you can have, okay, I want to have S3, but like for longer term backups, I want to have it in
Glacier?
Yeah, Glacier, or even like tape if you really want to.
Yeah. No, very, very good question. So yes, it's yeah. I think if I'm getting, just correct me if I'm wrong. So for example, when you in here, let me just see if I have AWS. You see it here, right? When you add the AWS, rather than adding, I'll just do an edit. Sorry, the mouse is going everywhere. So edit. Maybe probably is best just to add one and just show you one. It's not. If you just go next, right? You have something called a storage class. Okay, I think this is what you meant, right? So in terms of the data, so depending on the retention of your data, so we do provide that kind of recommendation as well to the customers. So one thing with Haiku is I'm actually from post-sales. So we don't actually, so once it's sold, we don't forget them or we don't disappear, right? We work with them with the journey, and I'm part of the customer success in there, okay? So as part of that, we work with the customer, help them out, because not all customers would know, especially with respect to cloud. Like you asked the question rightly, if it is, for example, the financial organization who wants to keep for 15 years, you don't want to keep in a S3 standard, right? It's already, the cloud pricing is quite high. But again, in terms of, you may want to choose something like a Glacier one. So that's why you can actually choose Glacier, flexible retrieval, or a instant retrieval or a deep archive for a very long time. If you want, just keep it for compliance sake for a very long time, put it in the deep archive. And we do also kind of explain to the customer as well in terms of not just these are backups, and would you be using them to recover, how sooner you want that data out, especially like tapes, right? It's all good to write it there, but if you want to, for example, Azure archived here, right? The ETA is about 15 hours. It could take up to 15 hours to recover your data, right? If it's the archived here in Azure. We do offer that as well, and we don't charge for that, in terms of these things, right? We actually work with the customer, help them out in terms of how they can actually keep the data, where to keep the data, and things that way. So that's all part of that.
So when you select the storage class here, is it just that you're going to keep a copy in that storage class, or does it actively manage the transition of those copies from across different storage classes? So let's say it starts off this journey as standard S3, and then after a certain period, it moves it into Glacier and so on.
Yeah, good question. So what we do is we create the target according to that storage class.
Okay.
For example, if it's S3 standard, for example, we'll create one. We'll take another target. That would be, it could be like a intelligent tiering, right? Third, it could be like a deep archive, depending on the retention. So as I said before, you could have backups taken regularly, keep it for a month, and that would be like, the intelligent tiering tier that you would keep. If it's for archives, and that would be the other target. So it's different targets. We're not going to be doing any sort of management, the life cycle management or anything in AWS. We try to keep that separate. We also recommend customers not to apply any sort of life cycle management on the buckets or the target where they store, because we want to have the full context of the data that's in that bucket, not apply anything outside of our context that we are aware of. Okay? Yeah, good question. Yeah, thank you. So that's in terms of the backups. Okay, the question is, right, all this backup is good only when you can recover. So what are the restore options you have, right? So for example, in the SaaS, let's say the Jira software, maybe the Confluence I saw is a Confluence. So you can see here the Confluence. That's maybe let's come up first here. I think the layout could be a little better, so that's what I'm trying to see. But anyway, so if you see let's say this is your source space, okay? Obviously, there's a Confluence automation rules. It's not a space, but automation rules come up as well, so we could back up that as well, okay? For example, if you have a space, I'm just trying to see, the easiest would be to filter it. Let's say just for the Confluence in here. It has got the gold policy. We do have some out-of-the-box policies, right, in terms of if it's a critical workload, if you want to back up more frequently, you can apply gold, as in like once in 4 hours, for example. If you'd like to have silver every 12 hours or bronze every 24 hours. But you can create your custom policies and create as well, not a problem. In here, this Confluence space, AEI, was backed up with the gold policy. That gets backed up every 4 hours. You can see here 124. I can't bring this pane up. Let me try. Yes, it's coming up. Oops. Okay. Hopefully you can see here that it's getting backed up. So once it gets backed up, all these restore points up here at the bottom here, you can see that today 124 and then 524. So every 4 hours the backup is taken. Let's say from this restore point, the latest one, you would like to restore this space. Okay, you do have multiple options in here. You could also export it or restore that SaaS. The restore could be to the same source or to another source. So in case you're looking to be restored onto a DR site, you can restore that onto a DR site. Okay, so that option is available. If you would like to restore to the same source, you have multiple options as well. So you have space or a page option for the Confluence. Okay, and you could restore that one. You can also let's kind of look at Jira software. Let me just close this bit. So this is silver policy. So every 12 hours it gets backed up. You can see the B is the backup, where it is stored. You can see the tooltip in there, where it is stored and how much is the size and target and what sort of storage class is used for the backup. and when will it be deleted, as in once you set the backup as it's to stay for 30 days, post 30th day it will delete that data. So the Haiku performs the retention management as well on top of doing the backup and validation. So in here you can see there's also C as a copy. Okay, so backup and copy. If you were to do archiving, it would also show the archives as well. So if you were to do multiple archiving, weeklies, monthlies, and yearlies, you would see there WA, MA, and YA, which is like weekly archive, monthly archive, and yearly archive. Okay. With respect to the restore options in there, you could just restore just the way. You can see the granularity of the Jira software, right? How much we can restore. So it could be the entire project. It could be one of the, these granular fields, right? This could be tasks. It could be epics. It could be stories. You could actually restore them on a granular level. There's also what we do is something called a compliance. So Haiku will always try to keep or will help you out in terms of compliance. So you set all your data protection strategy in the policy, right? As I said, how often you want to back up, and Haiku would check. The policy says I got to be backing up every 12 hours, and the Haiku has missed for some reason. Let's say, for example, there was an outage on the target side, for example, and the buckets or whatever couldn't be reached. Okay, then the backups wouldn't work, right? And if the backup doesn't work, then if it's not happened in the last 12 hours for the silver policy, then that compliance there would turn red in here, okay? And it'll also give you the information why it is red. So you can address that straight away. Oh, it could be that somebody changed the credential to access the buckets or whatever. So you address that straight away, okay? The same thing goes in terms of the granular restore, not just for Jira software or for Confluence, it's for entire thing, right? If it's like GitHub or a GitLab, you would have different, it could be repos, it could be issues. If it's things like, if you're using JSM, similar way, you'll have them as well in the granular. All of these are, kind of listed in this marketplace in here, okay? And you could actually choose what you would like to see. Let's say, for example, Atlassian Cloud, and if you say Confluence, show more, you could see the entire information that, what you can do. There's a module guide. If you'd like to just add this module, just say configure, and then straight away the source page comes up and you start to add it. So we're trying to make sure that, you can actually do all of this in a very quick, in a very short time. Any questions up to now, guys? Anything? Any of your custom? Sorry, go on.
If you have a granular restore, what happens when you try to restore an incompatible configuration? So let's say you want to restore a previous version of the Jira,
yes,
for example, but it might contain a status that doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, yeah. So those things. It's specific to those. That gets displayed as it's. So let me take a basic example that might kind of interest you. So, for example, if you were to restore a task, okay, and that task, we wouldn't be restoring it with the same task ID. You see, Jira has a primary key, so we would restore it as a newer task with the reference of the older one. Okay, so you can see that. We'll try to avoid anything, but if there is any dependent things that are there, which is what your question is, we would highlight it as part of the restore. Okay, if it is not possible, then it's not possible. So that would throw an error in the events, or the restore task itself would say that, yeah, the dependent one, they are not there. You could address it in a different way, and you could take action to kind of this specific field. Somebody just deleted the field. Now the entire project, if you want to do that field, is missing. So you got to put this field back in. You could, as I said, now you do have all these options in terms of, for example, for the Confluence, you can just restore it to another completely different site. And so there's no dependencies, and you could see that in that site if you like. That's possible as well. So there are different mechanisms in place to help you out to kind of solve the problems. But again, we got to take everything that specific means we got to go into every specific thing and see what the issue there is. Yeah.
So does the detection happen before you restore, or is it just as it tries to restore?
As it tries to restore correctly. But yeah, we were looking to do, today it's actually, after when you're doing the restore, it will kind of display it. but we're also looking to kind of do it in advance as well if there's a dependent one, so it can show up. And with Haiku, about 65% of the new features are the feedback that we receive from the field, yourself, from the existing customers. We bring in again, so we kind of listen to everybody and we kind of incorporate. One of the things that came from the restore to another site was something that our customers asked for their DR kind of thing, so that they can clear that from the DR plan. So we have that in place. We're also going to have the export, where you can actually export the Confluence spaces to your local disk if you like. Some customers would like to have data not in the cloud, but in their own premises. You could export and keep it if you like. So that options are coming. So basically that in terms of it depending on every customer scenario, we try to cover the requirements there. Yeah. Any other questions, guys? Oh, there's a
Pricing? What is the pricing?
So basically, in terms of the license model, I suppose, right? In terms of that one, so for example, Jira, Confluence, that would be. This is adding music to this one's nice, isn't it? So.
No, it matches what you're saying. It's very dramatic. Yeah, it's epic.
Oh, nice. Thank you. Yeah. Coming back to the question there, I hope the licensing model is also like music to your ears. With respect to it's basically it's going to be like user based. Okay, so Jira, Confluence, and they're user based. So depending on if it's a premium Jira, then it'd be like a premium user. If it's a standard Jira, then it'd be standard. So it's basically user based. We tried to kind of use the same kind of model that the Jira users, or it could be if it's Entra ID, then it'd be the Entra ID the way they license. So it'd be a similar way that we would license as well for the backups. Any other questions, guys? Anything? That's probably it. All right. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you so much, guys. Thank you.
I really like the graph.
Our graph, yes. Thank you. Yeah. It's one of those things that, it's actually getting a lot of visibility, not just with the people who are administering the backups, but also from the CISOs, and people are getting interested to see. They would like to have the view access so they can see it in one place. So it's not just from technical side of things, up in the chain as well. They're requesting. So that's it's getting really. Thank you for that as well. Thank you.
Is all of the this FCA regulation has that really increased the sales of your product? Would you say?
Well, they're not particularly, if I want to say that way, but in general, if you see, the major driver has been the ransomware attacks, but also especially it all depends on specific module. For example, if it's a Jira or Atlassian, customers are in different journeys, right? Some of them are yet to go to the cloud, and as part of this journey from on-prem to the cloud, they would like to kind of make sure that in the cloud, they're covered. They don't know what they would delete accidentally, or if they want to make sure that they back up prior, as soon as the data is there. And there ends to be like sometimes there is a catch-all project in Jira, for example, archive project, which nobody uses, or it kind of ends up in its own. That kind of it bloats. They don't know what to do with it. They take a backup. So there's different kind of things. So ransomware is a big thing as well, and then it's been and that's been driving the CISOs within the organization to make sure that they kind of ensure the compliance happens on all the data. Because we're able to project that R graph, we might start with Atlassian, but we might end with something else as well. It kind of covers the broad range. So for partners, it's been great for them as well, because you start with Atlassian, but sometimes you may not know what they have, and you may just ask a few questions, but that may not be sufficient. But with R graph, all you do is connect that to the Entra ID, and you don't need to ask a lot of questions. It's already there, and we just need to decide whether it's any critical workload for you to back up, or it's otherwise. So it's just a decision. They would assess the data and take a decision based on that.
Brilliant.
Okay, thank you so much, guys. Thank you for listening.